Thank you so much for having me. What an honor to be here with you. And I actually want to start by asking you to imagine if you were born and raised under a dictatorship regime. That's my life story. I actually was born in a country where information and truth was completely hijacked. I remember now the moment when I was standing in a Jewish quarter in Aleppo, when it was the Jewish quarter in Aleppo, where my mom was born and raised. And the stories that she told me about what happened to the Jewish community, the ancient Jewish community, and realizing, nobody else knows this. And it's only because my mom was born and raised there that she witnessed the stories that happened to her own friends and neighbors and how they were basically running away in the middle of the night because they were not even allowed to leave after the abuses that they were going through. She told us about her neighbor and how she was murdered along with her 2 young boys, and how she cried for her for like an entire week when she heard. It was all done by the Ba'ath Party in Syria. It was systematic. And then what happened to a beautiful young Jewish woman who was raped. And then all of her friends and neighbors started literally running away in the middle of the night. My father, who's half Kurdish, would tell us about what happened to the Kurds in northeast Syria and how they were not allowed to have Kurdish names or speak Kurdish. And if they would, they might get killed. And a lot of people did. And they would become Arabized. They would be forced to become Arabized, which is a term that you would only hear in this type of reality, under this type of regime. An Arab nationalist, corrupt, bloody dictatorship. And I grew up just knowing all these truths, seeing what's happening to other minorities, and knowing that you can only be an Arab or a Muslim to survive in this environment. You can never speak your truth. You can never say an opinion that might be taken and told to the intelligence service, and you and your family will be gone. Human life has no value. Your voice is basically could be completely silenced, no accountability, nothing. And it's all because of this war of disinformation. That's how I realized that, oh my God, I want to tell these truths. I want to share these untold stories. And especially that you see that on those media channels in Arab-speaking countries, the celebration of suicide bombings, killing innocent people because they're Jewish. In Israel, in the West, the hate is the main theme of this war of disinformation. And I actually got to leave and run away from this reality, but I was like, I want to go back and I want to work in the media. I worked in one channel, it was shut down by the Assad regime. I was already an American citizen. I worked in another channel, was also shut down by the Assad regime, and they opened up in the UAE. And then I hosted the first English radio show. And on this radio show, I was like, I want to talk about Jerry Seinfeld, because Jerry Seinfeld's mom was also Jewish from the Jewish quarter in Aleppo. So I talked about it on the radio show. And first thing happened is that the owner of the radio station was like, come here to the office. Are you going to get us shut down? You're going to get us, we're going to be destroyed. I'm sorry, you're not going to get this show anymore. I lost my job. And then there was an uprising in Syria, and that was the beginning of social media. So people started sharing and learning about things on social media. Social media is a very, very powerful tool. So for people who had no access to information, all of a sudden they're able to connect, they're able to look up things, they're able to share stories. And I started writing about what was happening in Syria. The Assad regime was killing people in Daraa, in the southern part of Syria, and I started writing about it. And my dad was like, oh my God, your name is on the intelligence list. That means not only you would be killed, it's your mom and your sister. So I was like, okay, I have to go back to the States. I went back, and I realized that all this hate, all this lie is basically what has destroyed this region. The glorification of evil terrorist organizations like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like the IRGC-backed militias, like the Islamic, jihad. And it was Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera was hammering all of this hate and disinformation, a channel of absolute just propaganda. And it was indoctrinating, radicalizing young people across the Middle East and North Africa, where you have hundreds of millions of people that literally, that's all they see and hear, and that's what they think, that's what they believe because of this indoctrination. And I was like, I want to do something about it. I want to tell the truth. I want to share these voices, tell these stories. And I started doing my own initiatives. During that time, that was right before the Abraham Accords, which was a major historic moment, because for the first time, there was peace between the people in the region, and I was utilizing my own social media to tell these stories, to share these narratives, and I was seeing a shift. I was seeing that people in Arab countries are starting to look at Israel differently. They started to realize that these radical evil forces are the ones who are killing everybody, destroying everybody's lives. Of course, the TV stations in Arabic-speaking countries don't show you that. And until now, they don't. But social media gave people a way to do so. That said, there was a major disinformation war that now started on social media. These same bad elements that have destroyed the region through disinformation, through the traditional media, now not only they still utilize traditional media, unfortunately, but they are actually waging campaigns of disinformation on social media, weaponizing this very powerful tool, and you can see it, you can taste it, you can feel it specifically after October 7th. People were basically being hammered with campaigns, either algorithms that were being unfairly twisted in platforms like TikTok, where if you post something against Hamas, you get shadow banned, you get actually suspended. And if you post something radical, something hateful, something anti-Semitic, you go trending. So you're encouraging young people to actually do and utilize, oh my God, if I do this, I get rewarded, I get more viewership, more engagement. If I do that, if I share something that is actually the opposite of that, if I want to be against these terrorist organizations, I'm going to be shadow banned. And that's basically has multi-layers, because we've had a problem that even our traditional media, like the Associated Press, had allowed this by hiding and omitting stories and truths that what Hamas was committing, for example, in Gaza against Palestinians and against Israelis. So that's what I was like, okay, we have to be working on utilizing this very powerful tool, social media, and I launched Yalla. Yalla was happening before October 7th, and people were already changed. People were actually watching and asking questions, and I interviewed Lior Raz. I don't know if you guys know Fauda, and nobody in Arabic-speaking countries have ever seen an Israeli actor or heard of an Israeli innovation. But because we have social media, we were able to share those stories. After October 7th, we interviewed families of Israeli hostages. We showed stories of what happened on October 7th. No Arabic channels had showed anything. They were either celebrating it like Al Jazeera or completely denying it or dismissing what happened. When we did that, people would be like, oh, we didn't know that this happened. Oh, we had no idea that this family went through this. And once you connect people, we humanize people, you show truths that people have never seen before, it's much, much harder to brainwash these same people, because now they can't ignore what they've seen. They cannot ignore that they saw this other family suffering, and they now feel that connection. And this is what's happening in Arab countries. But as we're doing this, we're seeing what's happening here. Now this radicalization, unfortunately, that I have my own trauma, from, is actually happening here. And these same forces are brainwashing our younger generations here. And that's why we started Middle East 24, which is a news channel that aims to counter Al Jazeera. We have been exposing Al Jazeera's lies. We have been showcasing stories about what's really happening in the Middle East through people who are from there, insightful information, giving you voices that are usually pushed aside, silenced in traditional Arab media and in Western media and on social media. We're platforming these people. We've had literally On Yalla, we've had millions of views, hundreds of thousands of followers, and we're not targeting to people who already agree with us. We're talking to the silent majority. We're talking to people on the other side who have been just lied to. They're not ideological, they just have been lied to. So on Middle East 24 alone, in one day, we would get millions of views. We've already been making an impact. People have been coming and watching and seeing because there's a shift that's happening in the Middle East. It's just not being translated in the West. So we're showing people in the West what's changing in the Middle East. We're showing them the people that lived under these dictatorships, these terrorist organizations. We're showing them what they think. Don't let that happen here. What happened to the people there should never be repeated again here in the West, where they're trying to utilize the freedoms, the liberties that we have in the West to destroy it, to turn people against themselves, to divide and conquer once again. So this is basically our greatest hope right now. Our greatest hope is to tell the truth, share these untold stories, reconnect people, rebuild trust, and this is basically the mission behind Middle East 24 and Yalla. And if we do so, this is how we can actually, this is how we will be able to win this war together. Thank you.